I hear a lot of people saying the blues, but I'm gonna tell you what the blues is. When you ain't got no money,
Hello everybody. So this is episode 12. We're on our podcast, Melbourne Musify. So I'm your host, Joe Ambient.
And I'm Ruby Winters. And today we have, and this is really in the way, but that's fine. We have a very special guest with us today. And Joe, would you like to read the introduction so we can introduce them?
So let's go. So today we are welcoming back Mark Hughes, who is a Australian singer-songwriter and guitarist who lives in Melbourne, Victoria. So, Mark has over 20 years experience in the music industry, playing gigs, including pubs, clubs, private functions, and weddings, along with supporting different headlining acts by the likes of Mark Seymour, Ross Wilson, and
Daryl Braithwaite.
Correct.
Yeah.
So right now, we are very lucky to have him joining us on our podcast. So, welcome back, Mark. We truly appreciate you coming to meet us in person.
Welcome back, Mark.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to meet you both.
And also, I think this is the second time that we interview musicians on our podcast. So if that makes sense, I mean, in face to face.
First time, really. So our other in-person guest was Sarah, and Sarah's more of an aspiring actress.
Oh, that's right. So the first time in face to face was the actress, and the first time
musician face to face.
Oh,
Fantastic.
that's right.
Yeah. So it's very exciting for us to have you here. Sarah is a friend of ours, so it was a little bit more comfortable because we knew her quite well. So we're a little bit nervous, but we're really, really thankful that you've come and been our first proper musician guest on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I was wondering if you'd had any or many people on before me. So, yeah, I'm quite honoured to be the first one. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Cool. And how have you been? How's everything going? How's 2023?
Yeah, look, it's going great. It's great. So I keep saying to my wife, it's the year of the dragon, which is big things, I think. And I think it's what's the date today? The 24th of February?
Yeah.
And so many things have already happened for me and are already sort of lined up that I'm really very excited about the year. So, yeah, it's...
Wonderful.
I just played a festival in Northcote, just near where I live, last weekend, and that was called the Northcote Rise Festival. And that was a spot of Northcote on High Street called Northcote Rise, funnily enough, and they blocked off the section of the street, and so it was a big thing with all the shops and the vendors, and they had stages. They had about 6 stages set up. So they had one main stage down near one end, and they had sort of bigger bands there. And then they had a smaller one down the other end, which is where I was, and they were having just like solo acts there. And they had like all these different sort of, I don't know if you've heard of many of the venues in that spot. There's like the Northcote Social Club, there's Bar Open, Bar 303, I think there's Piano on High, there's about a dozen. I walked down from there a couple of weekends ago and I counted about a dozen live. So it's like a thriving sort of place is what I'm trying to say. And they had all these different acts on, and I was lucky enough to be included in that. So that was great fun. That was really good fun. And then I think I said to you, Ruby, in our communications that I've got a couple of live gigs booked under my artist name, which is Sanz Mantra, and that's kind of a new thing for me as well, to sort of venture out into the live world instead of just releasing singles online, which is what I've been doing for the past couple of years. And so that's an entirely new thing for me as well. So I'm putting together a new show which is like just me, but with a full band sound and pre-recorded tracks and looping and samples and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm quite excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that does sound really exciting. Wow. And I guess us not being from like that area, we're not too familiar with Coburg and, what the area has to offer. Is it near Brunswick?
Yeah, it's about 10 minutes from Brunswick.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you've got High Street, which runs from Northcote or Clifton Hill, I think it's still High Street. Anyway, well, it's like there's Westgarth, which is just down near, there's the Westgarth Cinema down there, which is, that was famously called the Valhalla Cinema years ago, but that's still going. And then you go up and then it's Northcote, then there's Thornbury, and then there's Preston. And sort of in that area there's a heap of live music venues and like some really incredible music happening every night, like really, like if you go to Bar 303 on a certain night, you'll catch jazz musicians that will blow your mind. Like they're so good.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, so like I was saying, in Brunswick, that's 10 minutes away and there's more venues over there. I don't know about Coburg. I'm sure there's at least one. No, there's a venue in Coburg as well. There's so many.
Yeah.
So it's a thriving spot, that part of the world, the northern suburbs there. It's great. Yeah, I feel so lucky to live there. It's just awesome.
Yeah, right. I've got a little bit of experience of having spent some time on like, a Saturday night with friends in Brunswick, and just that, like that main street. I'm not even sure like what the street's called, but like restaurants and there's some bars and clubs, and it's so lively, but it's kind of like a laid back vibe, which is really cool, as opposed to something like Chapel Street or in the inner CBD where it's like a different vibe.
Can be a bit crazy in the CBD.
Yeah.
No, you're right, and it's totally different, I reckon, to Chapel Street in a way. Well, it's similar in that it's busy, but it's more kind of creative, I think. It's not a creative vibe in Chapel Street. Well, I haven't been there for a while, but
it's not really a creative vibe.
Yeah, but we always say, like, back in the 90s in Collingwood, there was a place, well, it's still there, Smith Street, and Fitzroy, Brunswick Street in Fitzroy were two sort of hubs of a similar thing to what's happening now in sort of Northcote and also in Brunswick, so...
Awesome.
Yeah.
Interesting. Might need to explore a little bit more because from where we're where we're located, it's like out. So you don't really have that very often. You might have like a pub that has like some live music here and there, but very lucky to live in like an area that you're describing, I think. Yeah, especially being in the music scene yourself and being so passionate about it.
Yeah. Well, it's fun for me. I've been doing cover gigs for a long time, which I think I said on the last time I was on. Yeah. And so I'm always travelling out, so I'd be travelling through High Street and going, gee, there's a lot happening here. I'd love to check that out. I'd love to check that. But I'm heading to wherever, to a pub somewhere in, outer Melbourne. Yeah. And nothing against that, but it's a very different vibe to what's happening. You just don't see the sort of stuff that's happening where we are. And so this year I thought I want to actually go out and see a lot more of this stuff that's just on my doorstep, And so, I haven't been as busy this year with cover gigs, with work. So if I've had a night off, I've thought I'm going to go and catch a friend or catch a new band that I've never seen. And so so last night I was out watching a friend of mine named Adam Rudiger, who hosts a show on PBS called Black Wax on Mondays, and that's like a funky jazz sort of show. And he's actually a really great musician himself, and so he was doing a show at a place called the Jazz Lab in Brunswick.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he was he was celebrating the 20th anniversary of his first album, and he had like these fantastic musicians, like, so it was him on piano and keyboards, bass guitar, drums, and two horn players, so a trumpet player and a sax player. And it was absolutely fantastic. And so we're both sort of thinking, oh, gets to about 5 o'clock and you'd bought tickets, you know, so you were committed to going. But 5 o'clock and we're thinking, oh, gee, bit weary tonight, you know, wish we didn't have to go out. And I said, well, I know we'll enjoy it once we're there. And we did. It was just awesome. So, yeah, so that's why I feel so kind of lucky to live around there, you know. I understand it would be more of a commitment to come over from the other side of town where you guys are, you know, so you've really got to be pretty intent on seeing something, I guess. Yeah.
Like planning and, I think, you know, I feel a lot older now, whereas back in the day, you know, it wasn't even a thought. It was just, hey, let's go to the city and we'll figure out what we're going to do when we get there. But, yeah, as I've gotten older, it's more like, okay, we need to plan now. And if you've been at work for the whole week, you're tired by Friday. Like, 2 days off, Saturdays, it's not enough time.
No.
You know, and if you do work some hours on a Saturday, like God forbid, like then you've only really got 1 day off.
Yeah.
And it just goes so quickly. So, but yeah, living local would be great because it's just like a stroll down or,
well, that's true. I mean, and you lose spontaneity as you get older. It gets harder because you've got more commitments and, you know, but yeah, I just thought this year I'm going to make the effort to go out and see these things that are just on my doorstep. And so far it's been really, really inspiring. So, so I'm having a great year so far.
That's awesome. And it sounds like some exciting things in the future for you. So, you know, you don't have to reveal anything. That's totally fine. If it's, you know, hush hush, but, you know, we look forward to, finding out more when the time is right or.
Yeah, I'm happy to tell you all about what's happening now if you like. Yeah,
sure. We'd love to hear.
Yeah.
Wow. And also I'm looking forward to the interview questions.
Yeah. So this kind of, so our first question was, would you like to read it? Because I feel like we're kind of covering it. So would you like to read the first question?
So let's go. So what's been happening with your music projects since we last saw you between late last year and early this year?
Yeah, well, can I ask you a quick question first? How long ago was that? I've lost track of time. Was it a year ago or was it 2 years ago or?
6 months.
6 months?
Yeah.
No
I'm just
way.
looking now. Yeah, we uploaded it 6 months ago.
Wow.
I know time
Oh,
goes.
wow. I would have thought it was at least a year.
Yeah.
Well,
operating out of Dandenong Library,
yeah.
and they have like this tiny little booth that only 2 people can barely fit in.
Yeah.
So,
I remember. Yeah. I remember the Zoom call. Yeah. Yeah. So all that just says to me how much has been happening. So last year I think I had my busiest year ever with, you know, cover gigs, which was fantastic. And I got to the point by New Year's Eve, I did a gig at the Auburn Hotel in Hawthorne. And I think I felt like it was the best solo gig I'd done in years. And it was just, everything went great. And it was just a great way to finish off the year. And so I thought, well, I probably feel like I've peaked a little bit with this. You know, I don't know how much more, apart from learning new songs, which is always a new thing, but, you know, apart from doing that, I don't know what else I can kind of throw at this, because I've got a looper pedal that I use with my my solo gigs, and so I've really gone into how can I use that more. And so some songs I'll have multiple loops, and I'll do like an outro where it just keeps going and building and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then I'm, you know, doing a guitar solo over the end of it. And, you know, I love doing that sort of stuff. And so, yeah, I got to this point where I thought, okay, I feel like I've ticked that box. I mean, I still will play cover gigs because that's where I, you know, make a lot of my living from. But I thought this year I want to branch out and get into doing, you know, my solo stuff. So my original work. So I got on the phone and, God, I didn't get on the phone. I didn't ring anyone. Sorry, that's just force of habit. I emailed a whole bunch of venues around where I live, and I sent them a bit of a spiel about, you know, what I've been doing for my Sanz Mantra music, and I ended up with a couple of gigs. So I've got a gig coming up on Saturday the 20th of April at a place called the Thornbury Local, which is in High Street, Thornbury, and that's actually with a friend of mine, a female artist named, well, her artist name is Not Norma, so as in not N-O-T and then Norma, excuse me, but her real name is Jeannie Proud, so she's she does the same thing as me. She's a solo cover artist, but she's just sort of diving into the original world as well. So she's doing electronic music. So yeah, she plays acoustic guitar really well, and she does the loop. She's got a great voice, but yeah, so she's not playing guitar at all for her original set with me. But anyway, I asked her, and she said, yeah, I'd love to. So she said, oh, I'm not quite ready, but I sort of said to her, neither am I. So, you know, there's nothing like a deadline to get ready. And then I've got another show coming up at a place called Open Studio in June, on the 1st of June, and that's a Saturday. And that's with, so I'm doing one set at these shows because I just want to, that's going to be enough for me to get one set together of my stuff. That's why I've got a support for both of them. But for that one in June at Open Studio, I've got a female guitarist named Jenna Campbell, who's amazing. She's this acoustic fusion guitarist, and she's a looping artist as well. So she does. It's like she's a great player, fantastic guitar player, and yeah, I'm really, really excited about that show because I think it's going to be just a great night. I think everyone that comes, well, it's an afternoon technically, I suppose. It's 5 o'clock till 7, so she'll be on at 5 and then I'll be on at 6. So it's a nice early one. If you guys felt like coming to that one, it'll be that'll be a really good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we will.
It sounds like a fun opportunity. So yeah, we look forward to it. If it's if there is there is a announcement or for example, what I saw announcements, when I see the signs or researching on internet or everywhere.
Yeah. Well, are you guys on Instagram at all, or?
Nope.
No, we're not. We should be. I think personally, I don't even have social media.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just realized it's like a matrix inside an already existent matrix, and
Yeah.
I felt like it's just a whole nother conversation.
Oh, no, I understand perfectly what you're saying. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I got off Facebook for that reason. I couldn't get off it completely because you need to have a personal thing if you want to have a music page.
Oh, right.
So I kind of just clamped down and, made my private, my personal page private. And so I've still got my Sanz Mantra page on there. But yeah, I understand completely where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I feel like being off social media allows you to connect more in the present moment in real life. Whereas most people are just stuck in, it's a whole nother conversation, but we should have one for our podcast. I feel for advertising purposes or connecting with people and things like that. So we'll make that a task that we'll do is we'll create an Instagram and then we'll follow you because I'm assuming you've got an account on there.
Yeah, that's why I was asking because I think it can be really useful. For me, I follow lots of venues. And so I found out about this guitarist, Jenna Campbell, through Open Studio because she was doing a support for a band that I just clicked on, just looking at it came up on my feed and I thought that looks interesting. I clicked through and then I thought, she looks interesting. So I listened to her music. I thought, wow, she's fantastic. I thought, well, I needed a support. So I asked her and got in touch and she said, yeah, I'd be happy to do it. And
that's awesome.
So that's the benefit of it, I think, and you can you can just dive in once a week and then just ignore it,
Yeah.
So, but you can follow things and you can see what's happening. You can, stay up to date, I think. So,
yeah, it's how you use it.
Absolutely.
It's like a tool, like anything. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Well, yeah, I think it would be a great experience to come and see you perform live, and Jenna as well. Sorry, my memory. So that sounds like a really, really cool experience, I think.
Yeah.
So June 1st,
Yes.
and maybe we can see if we can swing maybe the other show as well. I think you said April.
Yeah, April the 20th. That's a
20th,
Saturday
yeah.
as well. So that's, I think that's at 7:30, that one. So it's a bit later. It's a bit more of a traditional time slot. But I think they'll both be good. The first one I'll still be ironing out the kinks, I think, in my show. So there'll be a few moments where you might see me sweating a little bit.
It's okay. we all experience it in our own way. Stop
Yes.
stress. Cool. Okay. Well, we did start a bit late today. We've only really have the studio booked until 3.
Oh, really?
So it's like 2:52. But what we can do,
okay.
because I don't know if there's someone else that's booked it after, but we can just continue, and then, if somebody comes, we'll just be like, yeah, just 2 seconds.
I'm so sorry I was running late. I didn't realise time was so...
No, don't be sorry at all. It's totally fine. Like, we're so appreciative to even have you here and to meet you, and I'm sure even in the future, we can all reconnect at some point. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, we're not fussed, or, hopefully we haven't inconvenienced you too much
Not
coming
at
all
all.
that way. So, cool.
No, it's all good.
Did you want to start with the second question, and we'll just go from there?
Yep. And also, have you been releasing your new music or playing any gig this year?
Yeah, so we did cover some of that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
have you been playing gigs already, or?
Well, I've done some cover gigs.
Cool.
Awesome. But I did technically one Sanz Mantra gig last year, which was for a benefit, a fundraiser for a friend of mine.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so he has a disabled daughter, and a friend of his offered to help him organise a fundraiser so that she could get an assistance dog.
Oh,
And
lovely.
so it was a really good night, and he had I think 2 or 3 different acts on, including himself. He's a musician as well, and then we all got together and we played a few songs together as a band on the night as well. But yeah, so I played 3 songs at that night, and it was really quite nerve-wracking for me, to be honest, because I've never done that before. So I've always either played like by myself, solo acoustic, and mostly covers, lately, or I've played in bands with my own stuff. But to sort of have pre-recorded tracks and be playing along to that, and well, the other thing too is that a lot of the stuff that I write and I release, I just haven't played live at all. So I'm not that used to kind of performing it, I guess.
Yeah.
If you asked me to play, a well-known cover song, I'd be like, yep, no worries. But you ask me to play on my own, I'd be like, well, yeah, just let me get back to you on that. I'll just go and rehearse it for a bit, So that was really good in a way of just sort of breaking the ice for myself and doing it. And the response was really good. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll try and do this, because I guess the thing for me with my music is that I've realised that a lot of my kind of artistry, I guess, for want of a better term, is in the production that I bring to my music. And, I'm not sort of like an Ed Sheeran type where I'll just sort of sing it and play it with I can do that, but that's like, for me, it's about the details, and it's about the textures and the layers and the production that I bring to it in, when I release it. So to be able to bring that to a live setting with tracks that I'm triggering, from my iPad, and then sort of making it a bit more dynamic with some looping and also some samples that I've got on a sampler pad, that's much more exciting to me. And it's sort of, I feel that represents what I'm about much more than just me playing. Nothing against solo acoustic artists, it's fantastic, but for me that doesn't really tell the full story, I think, of what I want to get across. So I'm quite excited about what I'm trying to do now from that point of view. It's,
like the production side of it as well as the performance side of it. It's very multidimensional, whereas you know what I mean?
That's
like
a great word. Yes, I was trying to think of the right word. Multidimensional. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
It's multidimensional. Yeah. And so, you know, I love having the drums and the bass and this and that and the orchestra and, you know, so yeah, multidimensional.
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. How about let's go to question 4.
Question 4.
Yeah, we
So-
might skip a couple because of time, but yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, and also let's go with the question 4. So, when you're about to write a new song that you like in the future, what is your creative process like?
That's a great question. I think it changes. I think it's different for every song. So, I think for some songs I've got the lyrics pretty well sorted to start with, and then so it's a matter of finding the right kind of music and production and sounds to support that. And other times I've got something that might have a really great groove that I like, or some sounds or beats or whatever that I'm really into, and then I'm like, well, what are the right words that are going to go with that, you know? So, so yeah, there might be a song that I'm working on and I haven't quite finished all the words, but I know what it's about. I know what the vibe is, you know. Yeah, so I don't know if you've ever heard this saying, and it's attributed to lots of different people, but the last time I read it, it was attributed to John Mellencamp, if you've ever heard of him. He was big in the 80s.
Oh.
Yeah, John Cougar Mellencamp. And he said, a song is never finished, it's only abandoned, which meant that when you get in the studio, you've given up on it because you're recording it. So you've stopped tinkering with it and you've gone and you write. I guess most people would go, well, I'm happy with it now. But the joke is that he's like, oh, well, I've given up on it. So here it is. We're just going to record it, you know.
So it did happen like a long time ago, that artist?
Well, he's still going now, but he was big in the 80s and the 90s. I think he had quite a few hits back then. He did, I don't know if you ever heard a song called Jack and Diane?
I think so, but when it blew my mind, it was the right song that I heard. You know, for example, when I heard it on the radio or anywhere, I think it will blow my mind. So that was very interesting about what's behind the music. Even one of my favorite bands, artists, and I thought was very interesting. So back then, I thought they were very talented. Even they had super successful. They're very famous. And when I realized, when I read a book and watching interviews and things like that, I think there's some musicians. They had a, you know, back then some of them are not very natural about how they know about the music, but they learn, you know, there's some of them learn, they would attend to go to music school and music academy, and it's very challenging even how to learn about music because I guess they love music. They love their passion, their hopes and dreams, and also however they from their hearts and or wherever it came from. And also, for example, when I heard even though that one of my favorite band is Kiss, you know, there are, when I read the Paul Stanley book called Face of Music, I heard that they, you know, is very, and also before they were heard about, I will say the first time when Paul Stanley got into music, even before he joined the band Kiss, and also when he was very, very younger, he was unpopular kid in school.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very interesting that he was very young, and also when he mentioned the Beatles, when the Beatles perform live popularity, I forgot the show called, but Paul Stanley blew their mind, and they thinking like, I can do that, and then even though he sings and plays guitar, and also that's after. Oh, that's also even though when he had a disability on his ear.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, that's also very. Back then I didn't know that, but now, what I heard behind the story about Paul Stanley, even Kiss, I thought that was very interesting, you know, and even though in during the band Kiss, I heard that I'm sure that you know the hit song from Kiss, which is "I Was Made for Loving You." The recording sessions on the drums, it was original drummer Peter Criss. He wasn't on the recording sessions. It was there's someone replaced the drummer. It was Anton Feg.
Really?
Yeah, and also it's because Peter Criss has his because Peter Criss has his problems going on during Kiss.
Right. I didn't
but
know that. Yeah.
But I can't tell you what it was.
Yeah.
But
That's really interesting because I don't know if you know about the Beatles, one of their first recording sessions, Ringo Starr was replaced.
oh,
So George Martin, the producer, didn't think he was up to it, and so he hired a session musician to come in. I forget who it was, but so the same thing happened to Peter Criss in on "I Was Made for Loving You."
yeah, and I Was Made for Love You, and the album from that song, which is called Dynasty, and America called Dynasty, and the next album, like Unmask. That's before Peter Criss left Kiss, and they replacing Eric Carr, which is a different makeup.
Yeah. Okay.
It's very sad
Yeah.
when Kiss, using different makeup.
Yeah.
Same as Ace Frehley.
Yeah. This is the interesting thing about bands, I find, is that you get four people, usually it's four that all connect. And that's what makes a success. It's that chemistry between the four individuals. But then if they're successful, sometimes they might come up with a song that not all of them can play. So what do they do then? So they need someone to come in and just fill the gap, perhaps. Or perhaps one of the members isn't up to it that day, and so the machine still needs to go on because they've got this thing that's working. And that's happened. So my train of thought just derailed. But yeah, I think it was to do with the difference between, say, musicians playing well together, really good musicians, and then creative individuals actually creating something new. And they're not always the same thing. They're not always compatible. So sometimes you might have, most of the picture, and then you need to hire someone in to, like I say, to cover for Peter Criss, for instance, or to augment the sound or something. So it's rare that you find, that band that works and they can all play everything that they come up with as well.
And kind of continue to do that, like long term, I guess, because you do find that some members after a few years or however long will go off and do focus on their solo career.
Yes.
And I wonder if those dynamics have, anything to do with that as well. But have you ever been in a band yourself? Like not just, here and there, but you know what I mean?
A creative partnership. Yes, yeah. When I was very young, one of my first bands was with two other people, and one of them was a singer-songwriter. And so we didn't actually write songs together, but we helped each other's songs. So we we loved the Beatles. That was our main band in common. So I think we thought we had a bit of a, John Paul thing happening. I don't know which one of us was meant to be which, but that was probably how we saw it in our minds. And we would sing together. So looking back now, I kind of wish that I hadn't left that band, because we were only together for maybe a year. And I think that we probably could have gone on to do some good things and had some success, because looking back now, this was the early 90s, and I think maybe we were sort of a bit of a rarity maybe in the scene at the time, because there was usually like a band with one singer. So we would sing and we'd do harmonies, and yeah, it was a really good creative partnership for a while. So yes, I have been in that situation. Yeah, and it's only now as an older sort of musician that I realise how rare that is. So I've been in touch with that guy, and we've stayed friendly, but we haven't really, been in each other's lives for decades. But I found a video of one of our gigs, and I sent it to him. We were both like, "Wow, can you believe that was us?"
Oh, that's awesome, especially in the 90s as well. Like, what a time to be alive. Like, I grew up in the 90s, born in 89, so I was really lucky just even being so young to, like, have your childhood through the 90s, because just the feel of the world at that time, like prior to like 9/11, for example, where the energy just seemed to shift so, like the world just seems kind of colder now, all the stuff kind of going on. People became like, I don't know, it was just like such a nicer feel in the 90s. I can't even begin to imagine what the 80s was like. So to go through and have like those experiences then would be like really special. Like, not saying it's probably not special now as well, but everything just seems to have like kind of changed, like we're technology focused more now, and just everything's like go and Australia's more like populated now as well, so the feel of things have changed. And so really lucky to experience that partnership and being able to express yourself musically within that time frame. Sorry, I got a bit of a frog in my throat.
I think you're absolutely right. I think things did change after 9/11, and it's a different feel in the world. And I wouldn't describe the 90s as warm and fuzzy, having been there, but it was, I think the main thing was, I feel like you just had more time.
Yeah, right.
You had more time.
Right.
And,
Really
now with technology, like you say, there's, you have to go to an app to get more time, to manage your time or something. Whereas then it was just like, I look back on some diaries I had from the time, and this is it's maybe oversharing, but like we'd just rock up to people's place and go, "Oh, were you home?" "No."
Right.
They went home, so I went home.
Yeah.
"Oh, I went to so-and-so's place and hung out, and then so-and-so came around as well, hung out for a while and then went home." That just doesn't happen. Well, not for me anyway.
No.
I mean, I'm older, so...
Yeah, but even kids, today, like, it's probably not that common either. It's like the parents probably organising it with the other parents. And whereas back in the day, you just ride your bike and you'd go knock on the door. Or if you were lucky, you could call them, and, some people might have like an answering machine, and even that was like advanced for people back then if you had an answering machine.
Exactly. And I feel like there was more time for opportunity for serendipity in that sort of regard, Whereas now it's everything's just a bit more controlled and
100%.
contrived. Don't get me wrong, I love Google Maps. I have no sense of direction, so Google Maps is the greatest single thing ever invented in my book. Even coming here from the car park, I'm like, yep, I'm just going to follow this.
You can, the walking. Let's give you the option for walking. It's so good.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Like, it was only like at the beginning of this year that I got a car that had an iDrive. So like the screen that had Google Maps inbuilt, whereas I used to use maps like on my phone and just kind of put it somewhere in the car. But now, and I never used Siri because I didn't really trust, Siri's always listening. I was like, I don't want a part of that. But, I connected my phone to the iDrive, and I can just press a button now, and I'm just like, text Joe.
Yep.
And it will be like, what do you want to say to Joe? And I'm just like, hey, Joe, I'm here. When you're ready, like, come out. And
Yeah.
she'll repeat it to me. And then I just click send.
Yeah.
And I can do that while I'm driving. And it's so convenient.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, how busy are we that we have to rely like on the
Yeah.
car is now in home office.
Yes.
But it blows my mind that
Yeah,
we
same.
have that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just like we're so busy now, like trying to maximize everything like with work, and it's just it takes you out of the moment, you
Yep.
know. Yeah. And like I even in the past 5 or 10 years, like how quickly it's gone. And I feel like we do need to kind of recenter and become more present and, kind of set boundaries like with work and whatever it may be, just like making time to just kind of just be present and just, reconnect with nature or just disconnect from technology a little
Yeah.
bit because it's just everywhere now.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think the other thing, I don't know if you feel this too, Joe, but with being with online, there's so much comparison. So I think maybe before all this tech, you were a bit freer to be in your own little bubble, and just be able to be free to just create and just go, you know what, I'm going to do that, and this is what it's going to be like, and I don't have to worry about any sort of amount of likes or numbers or what that person's doing, because they've got a live stream that I can dip into straight away, and I can see what they're doing, and oh my God, they're so much better than me, or do you know what I mean? There's this pressure to be online and to share everything, to share, and I think maybe like that, like you were saying, like Ruby, it's before then it was a bit it was a different vibe, and that's how I interpret it. You had more time and you had more privacy to create without any sort of comparison, because comparison is just the death of creativity sometimes.
Yeah, so that makes sense, and I know that for example, like I heard that, for example, the same thing, like I've noticed that the same thing, like sounds the same thing, like when I saw what I love, one of my favorite YouTubers right now, which is Derek. His name is Derek Gerard. He also, since he has his dream of being a YouTuber since when he was very younger, and when he growing up watching YouTube videos, and he thought that that making millions of views that make him happy. But when he gets older, and when he starts his YouTube videos, there was a YouTube video since in 2014, and when he takes a very long time. When he got 1,000 views, when he used to make videos very long time, and then couple of years later, he started getting anxious. It's because he's very anxious when he was struggling with how to get his views, how to film and things like that. And then couple of years, and then I remember I remember the video when he makes a video called Serious Video. He also talks about it and understand and make it the message for the viewers to understand about when viewers thought that YouTubers very happy because they had like super success, but it's not true. So
Because of the pressure,
Yeah.
yes, to fit into that, mold, and trying to, the pressure of like trying to, I guess, maybe please everybody. So then you kind of change yourself almost to get those likes or to get the subscribers, and you lose your individuality by doing that. And it's the same with fashion as well. Like you look at the Kardashians and how much influence they have over like the younger generations, even just with the clothes they wear and, how they act, and like the individual kind of creative aspect of people not everybody, of course, but, you know, people then adjust to that to try to like fit in, and I don't know whether it's to be liked or to, you know, because they feel like they have to be successful maybe in whether it's friendship groups or could be work or music or
And also, so that makes sense. And also, like right now, the Derek Dra, I think he decided that he needs to take a break of doing YouTube videos. That's what happened. It did happen last year, and then this year, he made the video. There is another message about where he's been and why he's not doing YouTube videos anymore, and that's a video called "I'm Done."
Yeah.
And also he doesn't.
There's a few YouTube creators that have those "I'm done" videos, isn't there?
Yeah, and
just have
also
to disconnect. Yeah.
and also Derek said that he's not saying that he's not gonna stop making videos. He just said he don't know what is going to happen. So that reminds me of that point, that the same thing, like, you know, how the being successful, that, you know, that make them happy, even money and stuff. But right now it's not true. But, and also, you know, the point is, right now I just realized that, you know, when I think about life, like, you know, it's not about like, you know, just being famous or, you know, or being rich. It's also about like the things all we love doing is the matters is, you know, keep the things I love doing, you know, even like with music and things like that. Like, it's keep going. It's not about being famous. It's about, you know, about enjoying our lives, and also things we want to create and things like that.
Absolutely. Well, I think with YouTubers, it's interesting to me that there's someone might start off they might be a gamer, you know, and they've got all these millions of followers because they're a really good gamer or because they're entertaining doing it. Maybe with gaming you can go a bit longer, but with a lot of YouTube videos, that's probably not a good example. Like, they might start off doing, you know, cooking, and then they've got a great personality, and so they get millions of followers. But then eventually they run out of recipes. So you see some of these top YouTubers that get so huge, they've got like 10 million or 100 million followers, and it's just a video of them going on holiday or something because they've run out of ideas. Because creativity just can't be just churned out like that week after week, day after day, I reckon. And these platforms just require so much content that it's not natural. It's not how I think you just can't, one person can't just keep creating endlessly like that.
It's not sustainable, it's not meant to happen like that. It's meant to be like sporadic moments and, you know, kind of flowing in and out. Like, but they've got deadlines because they obviously, well, a lot of content creators get managers, and then so they're, you know, within a contract that they have to, like, you know, kind of create these videos once, twice, 3 times a week, depending on who it is, you know, to kind of meet these deadlines, because you've got advertisers involved and, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's another form, I guess, of working, really. But then at the same time, you're, you know, you kind of sacrifice like your privacy as well. So, you know, the bigger that you do get and things like that. So, I don't know. I feel like if you're really passionate about something, you know, it's great, but it's hard. Like, even if you're passionate about something, to force yourself to kind of do it, just for the sake of like meeting a deadline or whatever.
Well, that's sort of where I've come to, you know, now, because for the past 5 years or maybe even longer, I've been like, it'd be great to have X amount of followers on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, and I'd still like to have more followers. I mean, because it makes other things easier, like booking gigs, for example. But I've realised,
look at the yeah, and they're like, oh yeah, of course we'd love to have you.
Yeah,
Versus
you've got 20,000 followers. Why wouldn't we book you? You know, but for me, I'm like, well, okay, what am I really excited about? You know, and you know, I love making music, and I don't know. I've just had to sort of home in on those things that that really give me sort of fulfillment, I guess. You know, creatively. So, and I think that's probably what every creative artist, that's a point they'll get to anyway, I think, you know, because it's just not, like you said, it's not sustainable to just keep churning out content, you know.
And if you're not, like if your authentic self isn't in it, people will then feel that as well.
Yeah.
You know, and then it might not be like a consciously, like a conscious observable kind of thing, but people will feel it and then be like, oh, maybe, you know, I'll go and look at something else. Or you can feel it with some music artists as well. Like, bad example, Britney Spears. As a young kid, loved her, you know, grew up. She was like really, really bad example because she's talented, but she's not talented. It's just, I guess, the way that they manufactured her as a pop star to influence the younger generations and things like that. But as a kid, loved her. First and second album, really loved her, even though I was really too young to understand the depth of like the lyrics and all of that. Third album is when it kind of started to shift away from like her bubbly kind of self and more into like, it was more sexualized, and you can tell her heart really wasn't in it. And then obviously after that, that was it was the third album onwards. And then, you know, she went into the conservatorship and all of that, where she was like forced, you know, through like a court order almost to go out there and perform. I don't know how familiar you are with like that whole situation, but
she wasn't looked after by the people around her.
No, but she was like, even though she was considered to be unfit to make her own decisions, even down to what she could eat, when she wasn't. It was crazy stuff. She was still forced to go out and perform like these massive concerts in Vegas and record albums and things like that. And you could just feel that it wasn't there, you know. And so for me, having followed her, can't say I'm really like a fan of her stuff now, but you can just feel it. Like it's not, her heart and soul's not in it. So there are some diehard Britney fans that, you know, will support anything. But when the revelations came out that she was in the conservatorship, and then like in the mainstream, people became aware of like what that actually means and how like horrible that really is for anybody to be in. It just, everything shifted, and now she's not in the conservatorship anymore, which is good, but you just don't know what to trust in that regard. But like if your heart and soul's not in it, people will like gravitate away from that, whereas if it's genuine and authentic, I think it naturally like attracts the right, you know what I mean, like your vibe or your tribe.
Well, do you think someone like Taylor Swift is so popular because she is all those things? What do you think? Or is this a hot topic?
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
I have controversial views. Okay, so there's like there's some things maybe I won't put on the podcast, I'll say afterwards.
Sure.
But I do think that she's in a position of influence right now, purposely for a reason. I think that there are powerful individuals behind her. And that there is a reason. I don't think it's just because she's very talented, because in my personal opinion, I feel like there are far greater talented artists that are in the mainstream right now. Like if you just look at like vocally, Ariana Grande, like her vocals like are absolutely incredible. Like Taylor Swift doesn't come close in my personal opinion, you know, like yes, she's talented, she can write songs and all of like perform and everything like that. But like, it's not even a comparison for me, you know, but it is weird because there's this Swiftie mania and all of this, but there's some things that I've seen recently that have made me go, oh, okay, well then that makes sense why she's so big. And but that's a conversation probably for not on the podcast because we get very controversial.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Oh, well, look, like you, I think there are far more talented artists. I think her lyrics are very good. but I think she's, I don't know. I respect her for having gone and studied law so that she could get out of her first contract, and then
I remember that. Yeah.
yeah, and then kind of going,
With Scooter Braun, I think, was it?
yeah, you know what? I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to take 2 years off and study law, and then I'm going to get out of my contract. And you know what else? I'm going to re-record all my albums, and they'll be mine, and you won't get a cent. I take my hat off to her for that. You know,
Yeah, it's
she's
pretty
certainly her own
incredible.
woman. You know,
I think there's a lot of support from people about that as well, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I sort of think when I see her being attacked online for being the first female billionaire, that sort of annoys me because obviously no one has a problem with men being billionaires, you know. So there's a huge, I don't know, I think she's probably upsetting a lot of, what do they call them? Pale, stale males.
Yeah.
The old patriarchy,
Potentially,
these
yeah.
dinosaurs, they can't hack her. So I like her from that point of view. I don't listen to her music. There's one song I like. Yeah.
There's a couple,
Yeah.
that like I think are a bop. But yeah, like overall, you know, just if you compare, like I know we're talking about not comparing, but like just vocally, like
Yeah.
there are such like more incredibly talented artists that, like.
I did
So
watch.
it's interesting.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I did watch a Tiny Desk concert. I don't know if you know that series. It's a thing where they get big artists into this small. Do you know the series? It's like a library setting almost, and they have them come in and just play really kind of stripped down, you know. Or if they're a band, they're just playing with minimal gear and it's very intimate, you know.
Yeah.
So it's called a Tiny Desk concert. So she did one of those, and she was just on acoustic guitar and piano, and her playing and singing and everything was fine, but she was so engaging. From the moment she stepped out there, she's just chatting. She's a natural storyteller, I think. Maybe that's part of it, I think. Because I was watching, you know, I wanted to suss out what's the secret, you know, and she had me watching, you know. So
Yeah, she really capsulizes people. Yeah, like whether it's in performance, interviews, it's really interesting.
yeah, she was just totally engaging.
So this is what I was going to say it off the podcast,
Sure.
but we really only have 6 subscribers. So if this come back to
And you
haunt me,
don't know
that's
who's
fine.
listening.
You don't. You never know. I'm usually quite careful. But okay, so Taylor Swift is the real daughter of Zena LaVey, the daughter of Anton LaVey, who is the man who founded the Church of Satan in 1966.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so there's like, it's not really loading because the internet isn't the best, but there's like, you can look at the photo of like Zena LaVey and then Taylor Swift, and they're like absolutely identical. So the
Right.
question is like, is that the daughter? Yeah, it's
Was
a
this-
conspiracy kind of thing. Yeah.
Was this from the I think someone's about to
Oh, right.
come
We
in.
do need to
Yeah.
go. Yep. No problem. All right. We've got to wrap up. Sorry, guys. But thank you so much, Mark, for coming on to our podcast.
Yeah, thanks for
And
having me. It's
we
been great.
will, continue this another time.
Yes.
Thank you for having us on our podcast and face to face.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Face to face.
Thank you, Ruby.